Hello everyone, it's time to talk about the domesticated animals of the Star Wars universe that didn't make it into the first two videos about mounts that have already been released on this channel. If you like what I do, please like, comment under the video, and subscribe to the channel. You can also support the channel on Patreon. All of this really helps me work on the channel. Thanks in advance, and let's get started. I want to start this part with one of the most unusual mounts, fleas. And not just fleas, but lava fleas. They lived on the planet Mustafar. Huge 4-meter lava fleas are native to Mustafar, an inhospitable planet covered with lava flows and geysers of superheated steam. The local inhabitants, the Mustafarians, widely use these creatures as riding and pack animals. Machinery on the planet quickly broke down from the heat and ash, but the insects thrived in such conditions. Initially, lava fleas were underground dwellers. In the course of evolution, they acquired a strong shell that could withstand extreme temperatures and powerful legs that allowed them to jump over lava flows and bypass geysers. This is how they managed to colonize the planet's surface. The fleas began their life cycle as larvae called crystal worms, which lived among the rocks and fed on stones, dissolving them with the acid they secreted. It was their activity that led to the formation of numerous caves and entire networks of tunnels beneath the surface of Mustafar. The Mustafarians used them as safe underground passages, where they were safe from magma and ash emissions. After a year, the larva, reaching a length of about a meter, pupated. A month later, a young flea emerged from the cocoon and began to feed actively to form a hard shell. During this period, a red membrane appeared over its eyes to protect it from heat and ash. The average height of an adult flea was about 4.6 meters. Its weight was 250 kilograms, and it could jump up to 30 meters. Fleas were easily tamed and occupied an important place in the culture of the Mustafarians. Songs were dedicated to them, legends were composed, and in the initiation rite, a young Mustafarian had to jump over a stream of lava without protective equipment. They were used not only as transportation, but also in battle. Repulsor technology on Mustafar often failed due to temperature and ash, while lava fleas remained reliable and unpretentious. Even after the planet joined the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Mustafarians did not abandon their heat-resistant insects. Lava fleas remained a unique local feature. They were never taken off the planet. No less strange as a riding animal was the huge centipede Milladon, which lived on the unattractive planet Quarzite. Milladons were used as riding animals by the KJ warriors, a resistance group fighting against the local despotic ruler. The Milladon centipede was a four-legged creature with sharp, curved paws and a flexible body about 20 meters long. Despite their size, Milladons were very fast and agile. From episode 20 of season 4 of the animated series Clone Wars, it is clear that Milladons could move at speeds of at least 100 kilometers per hour for long periods of time. Large winged reptiles seem commonplace compared to other creatures in the galaxy, but the Mosgoths from the planet Tagoria are special. These giant lizards from the Thanos system in the Taldot sector were the pride of the local inhabitants. The wingspan of an ordinary Mosgoth reached 40 meters, and its body length was 10 meters. There were also individuals that were much larger. Intelligent cats. The Tagorians had lived alongside the Mosgoths since ancient times. Both races once had a common enemy, the Lifon, who hunted Mosgoth eggs and young. In order to survive, the Tagorians began to settle near the dragon's nests. The Mosgoths did not attack them, and soon a mutual protection agreement was established between them. The winged beasts guarded the settlements, and the cats helped fight off the Lifon. Over time, the Mosgoths were tamed and became riding animals, living cranes, and weapons. Through their joint efforts, they practically exterminated the Lifon. The partnership with the Mosgoths became the foundation of Tagorian culture. Originally nomads, they followed their dragons, but as security improved, the cats settled down. The males continued to lead a nomadic lifestyle, hunting and patrolling the skies on Mosgoths. This is how society was formed. The females took care of the household and raised the kittens, while the males roamed the skies. Later, the difference faded away. Women also began to fly, and men increasingly settled in cities. During the Mandalorian Wars, the Dekel sisters gained fame riding their mosquitoes in the arena of the Jervos World Space Station near the planet Pantalomen. Even during the Empire, when the Tagorians already had speeders, blasters, and a fleet, they did not abandon their faithful dragons. One illustration depicts the blacksmith and swordsman Mlatar Thon Gra with his Mosgoth Cutlin. Male Tagorians were known for their xenophobia. They treated strangers with contempt while females treated them with cautious hospitality. Because of this, the cats rarely left Tagoria and stayed out of galactic affairs. However, their belligerence also made them a threat. The Tagorians themselves often robbed caravans, smuggled goods, and staged raids, even on the backs of their Mosgoths. The Mandalorians were the first to encounter the power of the Tagorians. During the Mandalorian Wars, their troops invaded Tagoria but were quickly repelled. Uniting, the Tagorians defeated the invaders, and the Mandalorians decided that it was better to have such allies than enemies. The Mandalorians offered them to join their ranks, and some agreed, becoming the first non-Mandalorian members of the Order. It is unknown whether they flew on mosquitoes or switched to combat Basilisk. After the war, some of the Tagorians did not return home. They chose a nomadic life as mercenaries, bounty hunters, and pirates serving the Hutt. During the Clone Wars, the Galactic Republic attempted to capture Tagoria but was defeated. The Mosgoth, led by the Tagorians and General Grievous, crushed the Republic forces under the command of Jedi Master Walden Bridger. In a duel with Grievous, Bridger fell after 20 seconds. The general threw the Jedi's body to the Mosgoths, who eagerly tore the enemy apart, while Grievous kept only the lightsaber for himself. Now let's take a look at Tusk cats, large furry predators that lived on Corellia, Naboo, and its moon Orray. These strong and graceful beasts with short tusk cats and powerful muscular tails served as both hunters and faithful companions to humans. Their thick fur ranged from gray to reddish brown, and their keen eyesight and hearing made them excellent predators. Tusk cats lived in prides of up to 20 individuals but easily joined forces with others if they had no reason to compete. An interesting feature was their herding instinct. Once they found a herd of shocks, they guarded it from predators, feeding on their prey only occasionally. Wild tusk cats were dangerous, but those raised among humans were surprisingly loyal. On Naboo, they were tamed to guard herds of shocks and gualamas, and were also used in the police force. Trained animals assisted the law enforcement agencies of Corellia and Naboo by patrolling the area and tracking down criminals. Tusk cats gained particular fame as part of the Royal Naboo security forces. Cavalry units on these animals patrolled the plains and mountains, guarding the planet's borders. The riders, armed with blasters and flamethrowers, wore heavy armor. During the Trade Federation invasion, Tusk Cat's riders participated in guerrilla warfare, ambushing droids and convoys. The speed and bravery of the Tusk Cats, as well as the slow reaction time of the machines, allowed them to inflict significant damage on the enemy. By the start of the Clone Wars, the armed forces of Naboo had grown stronger, and the Tusken cavalry once again stood guard over the planet and its moon Orray. Tusk Cats also participated in celebrations. Queen Padme Amidala once rode one of these beasts during the celebration of the victory over the Trade Federation, when races brought together the Gungans on Kadu and humans on Tusk Cats. After these events, Tusk Cats began to be exported to other worlds as exotic riding animals, but they never became truly widespread. Only on Naboo did small cavalry units remain, carefully preserving the old tradition. Tusk Cats were not the only mounts used by the cavalry of Naboo. The Gualara, the proud northern steeds of the planet, were also highly respected by the locals. Their companions, the Gualar, were not used in the army, so their story is beyond the scope of this narrative. Gualara are large mammals with thick fur and lush manes that lived in the cold regions near the northern pole of Naboo. They resembled earth horses in appearance and had served monarchs, nobles, and guards since ancient times. According to the law, ordinary citizens were forbidden to ride Gualara, as these animals were considered a symbol of power and honor. Domestic Gualaras differed from wild ones only in their short coats. The long hair was shorn so that the animals would not suffer from the heat. Their wool was used to make clothing and tapestries, and statues of these noble steeds adorned Theed, the capital of Naboo, and the royal palace. For a long time, the Naboo cavalry did not know real war. The planet lived in peace, and the Gungans were not at war with humans. But in 32 BBY, everything changed. The Trade Federation invaded Naboo. Then the Royal Crusaders, better known as the Ceremonial Guard, entered the fray for the first time. A small squadron of cavalrymen on Gualaras heroically attacked the Trade Federation forces near the city of Heart Secure, where there was an airbase with N1 fighters. The battle ended in the death of the horsemen. The droids shot them down, and the city soon fell. Despite the defeat, their attack went down in Naboo history as a symbol of courage and loyalty. The memory of the Gualara was immortalized in the name of the Venator-class Star Destroyer, Gualara. This ship participated in the Clone Wars and damaged Grievous's flagship, the Invisible Hand, during the Battle of Coruscant. The Gualara itself was severely damaged but remained in service, while the Separatist ship was taken out of action and soon crashed onto the planet, just as history had predicted. After talking about the cavalry of the Grand Army of the Republic and the Galactic Empire, we cannot fail to mention their opponents. The CIS also tried to create its own cavalry units, not limiting itself to unsuccessful spear-wielding droids on speeders. Separatist military leaders turned their attention to animals and chose Orrays, powerful four-legged reptiles from the planet Geonosis. They had long been domesticated there, and the Geonosians' experience allowed them to quickly create a cavalry. The planet's developed industry played a role. Orray breeding grounds and combat droid factories were located nearby, which simplified experiments with programs for droid riders. The riders were B-2 combat droids, the famous super battle droids. They were re-equipped with special combat modules and, in some cases, flamethrowers. However, the flamethrowers proved ineffective against armored clones, and heavy GAR fire prevented the droids from getting close enough. The Orrays themselves were predatory reptiles about 3 meters long and weighing hundreds of kilograms. They compensated for their poor eyesight and hearing with strength and powerful jaws. The Geonosian picadors knew how to control them using static pikes, energy weapons with which they spurred their mounts. It was the picadors on Orrays who participated in the execution of the Jedi in the Petranaki arena before the start of the Clone Wars. When the war broke out, the CIS cavalry already existed, but its use proved to be limited. On the battlefield, the Orrays were too conspicuous, vulnerable, and difficult to control. Simple droid programs did not allow for complex maneuvers, and clone fire quickly destroyed both the mounts and their riders. As a result, the Separatist cavalry remained a spectacular but short-lived page in the history of the war, a symbol of how, even in the age of droids and starships, living forces still tried to compete with machines. Cavalry was not only used by the Grand Army of the Republic. The races and peoples fighting on its side also had their own mounted, or more precisely horseback, units. One example was the Dug Cavalry, which participated in the Battle of Malastare, shown in the 18th episode of the second season of the Clone Wars animated series. The Dugs did not use horses, but huge insects called Insectomorphs. These creatures had long, powerful hind legs and short front limbs with flexible fingers that they could use to hold objects or pluck leaves. Their grayish-purple skin with green and brown stripes served as excellent camouflage in the atmosphere of Malastare. Riding on the Insectomorphs, the Dug sat in simple low saddles, controlling them with their legs and holding weapons in their long arms. For other races, such a riding position would have been extremely uncomfortable. The cavalry's main weapon was the Electro Staff, which was not very dangerous to people in armor, but capable of disabling even heavy droids such as the DSD-1. However, the Dug's tactics failed them. In the battle on the plain, they attacked the dense ranks of combat droids head-on, which proved to be a fatal mistake. Most of the riders were destroyed before they even entered close combat, and the rest died under heavy enemy fire. The Battle of Malastare in 22 BBY is the only known episode of the use of Dug cavalry. It is likely that similar units existed before, remaining part of their traditional military culture, but only this brief, tragic testimony has survived. One of the Republic's allies was the ocean planet Mon Cala. Most of its population supported the Republic, which angered the Separatist Council and Count Dooku himself, as he had hoped to use the local shipyards for his own purposes. During the Clone Wars, when the Separatists, supported by the Quarren, invaded the oceans of Mon Calamari, the local defenders went into battle riding huge sea predators called Kilkana. These creatures were formidable and magnificent, up to 10 meters long, with massive jaws and muscular tails. Kilkanas lived in the depths of the oceans and were a combination of strength and grace. Their long bodies and fins allowed them to make rapid lunges underwater, and their powerful jaws could bite through a droid's metal hull. In battle, Kilkanas used their tails as weapons, delivering devastating blows. Despite their ferocity, these sea giants could be tamed if they grew up alongside members of the Mon Calamari species. During the Battle of Mon Calamari in the middle of 21 BBY, it was the Kilkanas that played a decisive role. They helped the planet's defenders destroy a huge crab cannon, an underwater weapon capable of destroying floating cities. The battle ended in victory, although the Kilkanas and their riders suffered heavy losses. After this battle, the combat animals were no longer used, and they returned to the depths of their native seas. The Yuuzhan Vong, a mysterious race whose technology was literally alive, took a completely different approach to living weapons. Their ships, weapons, and even armor were organic creatures created by bioengineering. Among them were riding creatures called Queednack, which the Republicans simply called Vong lizards. Queednacks are artificially bred six-legged reptiles of enormous size. They served mainly as pack animals, carrying cargo and soldiers. Despite their massive bodies, these creatures could reach speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour and maintain them for hours. Their skin was covered with organic armor plates that were almost invulnerable to light blasters. The intelligence of the Queednacks was higher than that of most Vong creatures. They understood voice commands and remembered the images of their masters and enemies. To protect its rider, the animal's back turned into a crest made of the same armored material. Yuuzhan Vong rarely rode their creations. Pride prevented them from sharing the glory of a warrior with an animal. However, in 29 ABY, cavalry on Queednack still participated in the battle for Ilesia, becoming one of the rare examples of the use of these living machines in combat. Now I'll tell you about Reeks. A Reek is a massive, horned, four-legged creature resembling prehistoric Earth reptiles. The planet Ilesia in the Hutt space is considered the homeland of the Reek, but thanks to trade, these animals have spread to many worlds. Reeks are herbivores, but if necessary, they can eat meat, which makes them more aggressive. In the arenas of Geonosis, this property was used specifically. Meat was added to their diet, which gave their skin a reddish tint and made the animals ferocious. However, a constant meat diet was detrimental to them. The Reeks became ill and died. The color of the skin of different subspecies depended on the environment and food. For example, the Ithorian Reeks, which fed on the leaves of the Bafor tree, had yellow skin. The average height of a Rick at the withers was about 2.2 meters. Its body length was over 4 meters, and its weight was over a ton. A massive horn grew from its skull, and a pair of tusk cats grew from its cheekbones, which the animals used to defend themselves and fight each other. The Reek's skin is incredibly dense and resistant to blows and cuts, although it cannot withstand plasma hits. Reeks lived in herds, but solitary animals were rare. Alone, the animal could not withstand predators for long. They were domesticated and bred for meat or as draft animals. Their strength and endurance allowed them to pull heavy carts and agricultural machinery. On Iridonia, the Zabraks bred a special breed that was more massive and had thicker skin. The horns and tusk cats of this breed were longer and sharper, and local craftsmen decorated them with carvings and symbols, turning the animals into part of their people's cultural heritage. Even thousands of years later, during the Clone Wars, Reeks remained an important part of Iridonia's traditions. Young Zabraks were taught to ride these creatures in military academies. Now about Dalgo. Dalgo are massive, four-legged predators that are surprisingly classified as a subspecies of the peaceful Eope from Tatooine. From their herbivorous ancestors, Dalgos inherited only the placement of their eyes on the sides of their muzzles, a rare trait for carnivorous creatures. Despite their predatory nature, these giants could be tamed and were used for both military purposes and agriculture. An adult Dalgo could reach a height of 3 meters. Their skin was smooth, colored in shades ranging from light to dark brown, with a lighter belly. A powerful crest rose from their heads, which could be used as a weapon in battle. These animals felt at home in the dense forest of Andderon, hunting small animals. Since ancient times, Dalgos have been the backbone of the Andderon cavalry. Guardsmen rode them into battle, and later, so did the Andderon rebels who rose up against the usurpers backed by the CIS. Powerful and enduring, Dalgos were used as war horses and beasts of burden, capable of enduring long journeys across rough terrain. After the planet was liberated from Dooku's minions, the Dalgo remained a symbol of the resilience and strength of the Andderon people. They were bred not only on their home planet, but also on the moon's Ardasa Styx, where they served as faithful working animals, although cavalry units did not survive there. In addition to the fearsome Dalgo, the Andderon rebels used other riding creatures called Rupings. These large, four-eyed winged reptiles served as living fighters and scouts. Their bodies reached 4.5 meters in length, with a wingspan of almost 15 meters. Their light brown or orange skin on their backs and gray skin on their bellies provided excellent camouflage. From above, the Ruping blended in with the ground, and from below, with the sky. Thanks to their endurance and obedience, Rupings became an integral part of the Andderon militia during the Clone Wars. Interestingly, these creatures were named after artist Tara Ruping, who worked on the Clone Wars animated series. Rupings were not the only winged giants in the galaxy. In different eras, similar creatures were bred on other planets. Particularly well known are the Thranta, the pride of Andderon, which became a symbol of its aristocracy. These majestic feathered reptiles were distinguished by their exceptional grace and strength. The most common specimens were up to 12 meters long with a wingspan of about 15 meters, while the Palada and Balana breeds reached gigantic sizes, up to 25 meters in length and 40 meters in wingspan. Thrantas could hover in the air for many hours and even sleep while flying. Riders of smaller breeds sat astride them, controlling the reins, while larger ones served as transport with suspended gondolas. Breeding Thrantas was extremely costly, so they belonged mainly to the noble houses of Andderon. Aristocrats used them for travel and hunting, while the army used them for rapid landing operations and troop transfers to hard-to-reach areas. Even with the advent of airspeeders and shuttles, Thrantas retained their importance for a long time. Their living breath in the skies of Andderon became a symbol of freedom, until the tragic end of the planet. One of the last combat mounts of the period under consideration were the Katarns, huge predatory reptiles from Kashyyyk, impressive even by Wookiee standards. These ferocious beasts were distinguished by their strength, agility, keen hearing and vision, but especially their patience. They could lie in wait for hours or even days, waiting for their prey. The Wookiees called them silent and deadly, revering them as a symbol of bravery and hunting skill. Catching a Katarn was considered a great feat, worthy of a true warrior. An adult beast could reach 6 meters in length, and its head was adorned with spikes, which wild specimens used in battles for territory. Powerful clawed paws allowed them to climb tall trees, and a blow from a front paw could easily break an enemy's neck. There are two known subspecies of Katarns, the fast and agile ones that lived in the upper canopy, and the heavy, slow-moving giants of the Shadowlands. It was incredibly difficult to tame a Katarn, but those who succeeded were served by the beast until the end. No less amazing creatures of the galaxy were the Shingashiku snakes, or stallion snakes, which inhabited the planet Makum-Te, the world of the strange race of Swokes. These long 8-meter reptiles with dragon-like snouts were used as hunting and sometimes fighting animals. Local residents had bred them for centuries, creating dozens of breeds, from golden to bright red, which were considered symbols of luck and power. Despite their impressive size, Shingashiku were surprisingly obedient, although in battle their value remained more ritualistic than practical. The icy planet of Orto Plutonia was home to Narglatch, huge predators with blue skin and long tails ending in a fin-like tassel. They lived near rivers and lakes, hunting alone. Males could be recognized by their fleshy mane of spikes, while females had no mane but were much more ferocious. Narglatch were loners and brave hunters, and females, after giving birth to their young, left them to fend for themselves. Despite the danger, these animals were still tamed. They were ridden by the Tals, a primitive race from the northern worlds. On Ortho Plutonia, Narglatches became the only species of combat mounts, and their image became firmly established in the legends of the Ice Peoples. Among the well-known riding creatures of the galaxy, Veractyls, graceful feathered reptiles native to Utapau, held a special place. These creatures, combining the features of birds and lizards, could climb steep cliffs with incredible speed and ease. An adult Veractyl reached 4 meters in height and 15 in length. They were tamed by the Yuuzhan and used as riding animals long before the Clone Wars. They were distinguished by their calm disposition, loyalty, and amazing endurance. There were different breeds of Veractyls, from small desert ones to poisonous ones, such as the Venomblade variety, capable of secreting toxins. The Veractyl's relatives were the Dactilians, giant flying predators with 6-meter bodies and wingspans of up to 24 meters. They once posed a threat to local residents and even to the Veractyls themselves, stealing their eggs, but over time they were tamed and took their place in the Utapau Air Force. Despite the planet's modern aviation, Dactilians remained the darlings of the sky, living fighter jets whose roar was as terrifying as it was mesmerizing. Thus, among the star worlds, on forest and ice planets, in the depths of the sea and under the clouds, these amazing creatures lived side by side with intelligent races. Some were wild, ferocious, and untamed. Others were tame and loyal, but all of them were part of the great living history of the galaxy, reminding us that even in the age of blasters and star cruisers, the ancient bond between creature and saddle had not disappeared, but had merely taken on new fantastic forms.
Of course, I have not covered all the mounts in the Star Wars universe, but I have tried to talk about the most interesting ones in my opinion. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can also help the channel on Patreon. It really helps the channel grow. That's all for today. Thank you all and see you soon.